Życzymy Państwu przyjemnej podróży.
Dobry wieczór.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored and I'm happy that so many of you have arrived to the meeting with my two excellent guests, Danuta Wałęsa a legendary person. I do not have to introduce her, but we are meeting to talk about the next legend, solidarity, and about what Danuta did for solidarity and for Poland. I think that these words are justified. And the second speaker is Karolina Kazoń, an actress of Juliusz Słowacki Theatre in Warsaw. And she played Danuta Wałęsa in the musical 1989. We will start the meeting with showing you a video which is a fragment of this show. And the title of our meeting is The Moment When Danuta Receives the Nobel Prize for her husband, Lech Wałęsa, who was afraid that when he leaves Poland, he will not be able to go back to Poland. So let's get back to the year 1983. The vision, the title of the play is 1989, and it was directed by Karolina. On the 10th of December 1983 in Oslo, Danuta Wałęsa and her son received the Nobel Prize for Lech Wałęsa. Danuta, how do you remember those times today? What do you think and what are your emotions? First of all, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to say that I'm very happy that so many of you have come. I have never wondered about it. It's the past, which has passed. I like to live the day. I do not like to get back to the past with my thoughts. I had to do it. I did it. I'm very happy that Polish women received it so well. I helped many Polish women. I received the Nobel Prize for my husband, and when my husband was the president, when I was going for the trips, everybody was associating me with this Nobel Prize ceremony. Everybody was congratulating me. Everybody was saying that they were so proud of me. So it was nice. It was good it was a good feeling for me that I have managed to do this. In this video, we can see anger. Do you still feel a little bit of anger that women were somewhere at the back? The book you published over a decade ago was your book an attempt to show that solidarity was not only possible because of men, that women also had their share since 1980s. Of course, women played a very important part at the time. Men were in shipyard. How could they go on strike if the women wouldn't look after their families? So I think women actually played a greater part than men because they felt safe. My origin is, well, when I was young, men were most important people in the families, but it was the women who were managing the men. If not the women, they would be extinct. So we had this model in my family too, but I still feel that this official narrative about solidarity for a very long time was not like that. So I wanted to ask you whether you have this feeling that you've paid a price and you started to highlight the share of females. Everything is taking time. First, you have to become pregnant, then it takes 9 months for the child to be born, then the child develops. The child doesn't become an adult very quickly. So the same in this situation. It started in the 1970. So maybe to me that process was too slow, but it was becoming mature, and it took us to the present situation. Karolina, how do you perceive this? When you started to work on the play, or maybe even before you started getting ready to play Danuta Wałęsa, somebody who was fighting for freedom. And of course, there was this division into different parts, and we know how men and women were appreciated. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy that so many of you have come to me. I feel I'm a feminist. Before we started preparing this play, I rather imagine the role of women in our times as the fighting women, fighting characters, very active. In my considerations, I didn't spend a lot of time for women who did this invisible work and who are forgotten by the history. And this is what the work on this plate has showed me. And I knew Danuta before because I watched Krystyna Janda's play, and then I read the book. And I could hear the voice of Krystyna Janda from the play when I was reading the book, and I found the book very moving. I also read the book, The Invisible Women, so I started thinking about it, and I decided that I cannot agree to delete the history of women who allowed men to stand in the first row. On daily basis, these women did a great job. And we will not read about these women in the history books. I even didn't think a lot about those women because their deeds were very invisible. Historians didn't notice the work. And I think it's very important, and it should change. We need to remember such women, and we have to think about them every day because it's not that it was over in the 1980s with the transformation in Poland. This process is ongoing. We witness it every day. We go to school, we have history classes on history, mainly history of men. 80% of the characters in the history books are men. Why women are not depicted in the Polish books on Poland's history. It's the women who bring up children, work for the men to be able to do something else.
Książka tutaj, zresztą mam wrażenie, że ona była...
Your book is mentioned here. It was very important for the mindset and realizing how much work females do. Did you hesitate to write this book? What was your impulse for telling the story? I have to say it takes time for me to mature to certain things, and the case was with this book was no different. A group of people was persuading me for 3-4 years to do it. I was only telling the story and the author was writing it. I need to have the right people who understand me, and I must understand my interlocutor. I think it had to be like that. It was like a destiny, solidarity, and our fight on. But honestly speaking, I don't like the word fight. I'd rather stick to gaining privileges or rights. Fighting for me means you need to defeat someone, and I don't want anybody to defeat males. I simply want men to understand that a woman is the same creature like a man, has the same rights. You cannot impose anything or conquer her. Karolina is a young woman living in a different world. Her perspective is different. When I was her age, the world was different. I had to fight for everything. The book, summarizing my experiences, it starts with several rebirths of mine. It's like a natural comparison. The book for me was a therapy which I needed personally. When the book was published, I had been working on it for 2 years. I experienced some moments emotionally remembering it. Now I don't experience like that. Yes, for me now it's normal. But after the book was brought out on the 23rd of November, we are going to celebrate 13th anniversary of the book. When I started traveling to meet the readers, I realized what it really meant. It was like another rebirth of mine 13 years ago. Then I realized how I experienced it, that I managed to express it in the book. I knew that some readers were comparing themselves to me, that their lives were similar. But after that, I am extremely grateful for getting such experiences. It was hard, it was sad. And Karolina mentions the pig course, but that was true. The first week after the martial law was introduced, I had to go to the countryside to get some meat for my family. Other women felt more valued. They felt they could do it, that you can do your chores, do your duties as good as you can. Sometimes we do not cope with them 100%. But I was lucky to meet good people despite hardship in the communism. After solidarity was created, I experienced bitter moments with people from solidarity. Communists treated me well, but unfortunately, solidarity people treated me in different ways. Was there anything you were afraid to say, to reveal, something you were wondering whether you should mention it? I never considered I could offend someone or describe them the way I saw them. Or 2 or 3 people felt offended, but I wrote the truth. I am an honest person, so I wrote it from the bottom of my heart. That's how I saw it. And that's why I decided to present it. I believe this book was a very important component of reminding that the unpaid work at home, what females do invisibly, is as important as the political matters, and what is visible on the surface. One would not exist without another. Karolina, when you were preparing the performance, how did you work on Danuta's role? Getting ready for performance, I used Danuta's book, which I had read several times. I was coming back to various parts, which helped me decide where specific songs belong. But first of all, I tried to find the image, and we hadn't met before. I tried to imagine what Danuta Wałęsa is like as a woman. Then it turned into musical, which was a challenge, considering the time regime, the beginning and the end of the song. And you need to reject it and find out that what you have invented might not work. I also used parts of the conversation that Kasia Szyngiera, our director, had with Danuta Wałęsa. I returned to it before the first show, and I nearly cried because Danuta mentioned... Can I tell about it? Kasia asked Danuta how to tell that women are important. And Danuta said, I don't know, I visited Wybrzeże Theatre once where females were shouting, and perhaps you need to shout it out. Automatically, I came back to it in Danuta receives the Nobel Prize. It's a rap form, and it's shouting out the truth. So I decided to shout it out for Danuta from the stage. Every time I sing this song, it's still living inside me. I do it for Danuta and for other women. I observe the responses, the reactions in the audience. I can see mature women who feel it's about them, that these are their stories, and it adds sense to my work, which is great. I think that's it. We had plenty of materials collected by the script writers Kasia Szyngiera, our director Marcin Piórkowski, and Mirosław Wlekły. They had been meeting for 2 years with anybody willing to talk to them. Solidarity people, members of the communist apparatus, historians, and it was really impressive load of materials, which helped us digest through it and understand that there is nothing incidental in the lyrics. which is also unique about our performance. Right, it's well documented historically. Danuta, when did you learn that such a musical was going to be created, and what was the first thing that came to your mind? I can't remember exactly, but there were some attempts to ask me whether I would accept such a concept. I didn't impose anything, but I accepted the concept. The music you use requires shouting. It's energy that is supposed to be awakened in females. They should show that regardless of their age, we can do it if only we want it. We can change our lives. We can change the approach. The most important thing for me is to release mutual respect so that there is no aggression, so that if someone has a different mindset, it does not lead to conflict. We must learn how to talk to one another. Now the time has come. Following books and films about transformation, about solidarity, the time has come for a dialogue, for mutual understanding. What we all experienced, I can see mature and experienced people. I can see many young people because the audience is dark. But we need to remember we should do something to reconcile our nation, to close the gap, to avoid arguments, disputes, and reproaching things to one another. One is fat, one is slim, one can sing and another can't sing. So if you can't sing, listen to me because I can. And that's what I want to see. It's very important what you have just mentioned. You mentioned this gap in the Polish society. You bitterly said that some solidarity people offended you or criticized you more than praised. And it was more bitter than what former communists could cause. The performance was created in the period when some tried to rewrite the history anew. I remember your appeals to listen to everyone and your message that it's possible to reach a compromise with everybody. What do you think? What can we do with a Poland which is divided, practically? Well, I feel it's the church is to blame for it partly, because it sold itself to the law and justice people. That's the truth. They couldn't hold their Christian and Catholic dignity, but simply sold themselves to the law and justice. And it's really painful for me. During communism, I hoped for the church to always play a positive role, just like in communism, and now it failed. Looking at what is happening now in the church, there is a gap. There is this rupture as well. For those who believe in God, it was a place where we could go and could be listened. And there is only a minor part left, which is for reconciliation and agreement. That's amazing what you are saying, because it seems obvious to most of us.
polityków.
But we hardly ever hear it from the politicians. So rarely. I have this feeling that many politicians maintain this conjuncturalism. They do not name things. So from where did you take this courage? I have nothing to lose. Firstly, I have nothing to lose. Secondly, I have never been afraid. I was speaking to communists. I was arguing with them. And even now, during the Law and Justice Party, I was speaking out. I was talking about Kaczyński. There were no taboo topics. I expressed my views. So if we all are open, sincere, you are right to saying that a lot is for the politicians. So we could have meetings that would provide us this feeling of unity. We really have to respect one another. It's very important to me. Karolina, this play, well, you've been showing the play for 2 years. So you, in Kraków, you also, in Kraków and in Gdansk, in the Shakespeare theater, you are performing. So this musical actually writes a new narrative, and in a way, it shows this invisible face of solidarity. Absolutely, yes. This is why this play is so important to so many people, because it tries to change the narrative on solidarity. We've already heard about this invisible, very important work of the women, and we wanted to show this history in the perspective of women. And there is something more that has made the play very successful. This play is about the things Danuta is talking about. In those times, people could talk, although they had different views. So this is quite a way out for our common good. We should sit down together at the table and reach a consensus, understand one another. The play also provides a lot of hope. Now the times are slightly different, but it gave hope at that time. I love playing in this play because I can see that people leave the show filled with special energy. They believe that the change is possible. So they are filled with energy, and they feel that they are capable of doing something, changing for better. Thank you. I would like to go back to the history. Before the panel, we had a short talk, and we were talking about this invisible, huge work by the women. And we also remembered the issues of being mothers and bringing up children. You brought up 8 children and 1 husband. What would be your advice to mothers of today? How do you bring up 8 children? I have 2 children, and I think that this is the area in which I have most failures, and I'm angry with myself. It's not my role to give advice to young girls, because it is a different word now. I can see that if somebody has 2 children, they think that it's a lot of work. I do apologize. But, well, my daughter also has 2 children, and she says, Mom, she's older than I. I was at that age when I had the last child, the 8th child. I don't know where I took the energy and strength from. Let's leave this subject. I brought them up. I am a senior of the family. I'm grandmother. And I stopped bringing up my husband. It's not possible. I have this dream. And it's my desire for young people, because it all depends on young people, how they will live on, how they will shape the future. Because now, if the family has 1 child or 2 children, who will work for us seniors? Okay, my children will work for my retirement. It's a huge problem. Young people who are 25, 30, or 40 years of age, they do not want to get involved in politics. But it's not about having, it's about thinking. I hear that there is poverty in Poland, and there are people who have millions. There are politicians who have 12 flats, and they still take the money from the parliament to buy the 13th flat. It's not normal. So we will have to restart the fight for other things. So we shouldn't just think of ourselves. We have to acknowledge that there are other people who need support. So we should write a new book for new times, and we should have a new play, Karolina. We look forward. I think it's maybe not the feeling of service, it's rather letting people know that the feeling of lack does not depend on the quantity of material goods. It's about something completely different. We should rather stop being so much focused on capitalism. I think it will be for our joint good to understand that actually not possessing assets is a good idea. Maybe then we will have more children, but it's for the politicians. They have there's a great role for the politicians to play in this context. It's good to talk about these things at all times. I have to ask Danuta about Lech Wałęsa, because I have this impression that recently you are stealing his performance from him. We are fighting for the good of women, and now you're talking about taking the show away. Everybody has their own show. He had his time, now it's the time for me. I did my job. I was wife and mother. I supported my husband politically. I supported him in difficult situation. It was always me. And then he was riding behind me because I always was able to do things. Now the world has changed. The times have changed. Nobody is stealing the show from anyone. Women have their lives, men have theirs. But, gentlemen, I have to underline that without your women, you wouldn't be so important. That's the truth. Karolina, how do you perceive this? Let's take the perspective of someone who had to analyze the married life of this couple and the public image. We are just talking about a fragment of the life of this couple. What Danuta is writing in her book, well, there is this incredible story of emancipation and this understanding that she had to follow her path. She wanted to take care of herself and she wanted to do what she wanted to do. She will follow her way. Becoming independent of the husband, it was great to me. Danuta is a great hero to me. But she's also very loyal. She's not spiteful. So you can really say what you really think. But you have a great class, and you have this great feeling of respect to ours, and this is proved by what you say and what you do. But let's get back to the play. So it's a fragment of this story. And we only play this fragment when the laugh is very important. This is the beginning. It starts with the song Just Like Karen, together with Rafał Szumera. He played Lech Wałęsa. Well, we had to provide this framework of a musical, so that was our idea. I remember what you wrote. I will always remember your book. You wrote that love is very important in life. Love is most important in life. It's the feeling of being understood. So this is the starting line in my story, the story I retell. So I always use this fragment of the book. And then in the play, we are talking about the separation that has followed when Lech was on the barricades and Danuta was bringing up children. And she was on her own. And the play is then crowned by the song Danuta receives Nobel Prize. We do not have the ambitions to retell the private story. It's also a kind of a fantasy concerning the views, how our perceptions. So in the play, we just talking about our perceptions. It's very important that the skill of loving, in a way, shows what kind of people we are. Of course, you can have some associations with politicians and their private lives. So we do not want to discover everything about politicians' private lives. But if somebody is capable of loving, is loyal, and can create something together with the other person, it's a good prognosis which shows how he or she will operate in the political institutions. I would like to look at a different context. This is Danuta's story, but in a way, I look at the story like into a mirror. This fragment is very important to me because I have this feeling that we women, we are socialized in a different way. Our love is greater and more obvious, and it's quite a sad conclusion. So it was important that love joins all these fragments, and it's super important. And for men, it's so difficult. They are really fighting with their emotions. So if they have more acceptance, if they know better how to face emotions, then we would have more understanding towards each other.
But Karolina, a man sometimes finds it hard to talk to other men one says one thing, another says another thing, and it's often not a dialogue. Perhaps females are more moderate, but now they're also fighting in the parliament. But I don't know whether they're going to succeed. But just to summarize, I would like to say, that's life. It started from something, it went its own way. Not everybody had the opportunity to participate the way I participated, that there was family, everyday life, and politics. And it was a part of my life since 1970s. Then it was 74, 76, and there were some upheavals. And it ended in the 1980s, the way it ended, and thank God for it. When the strike ended, the undermining started, humiliating others. It's obvious you need to talk to another person, even if they are your enemy. Then they invented a story of my husband being a secret agent, and we were humiliated during Solidarity, mostly. And just to finish, from the current perspective, when you look back at your life, would you make any other decisions? Would you do anything different? I don't like this question. It's a wrong question. How could I change it? Life goes, and you need to take it as it is. If you're in doubt and you try to change, you never know if it's for good or for better. You need to flow with the wave of life. You should take life as it is. It's my personal opinion. If we have a group of people sitting here, each of you has your mindset, your model, you evaluate your decisions. But what we experienced can't be changed. It's good that everybody in my family survived, so that's the reason to be happy. Okay, so now is the moment to open our discussion and give the floor to the audience. We have a quarter of an hour left, so time for questions. Katarzyna Nowak. I hear the discussion. You went to Sweden and because Lech Wałęsa was afraid he wouldn't come back. No, I wasn't afraid. He was. I had to do it. I've been listening to the story over and over again. Has anybody considered that you might not come back? But women didn't have any power back then, so it was, like an addition to a male. What would they do with all these kids? No, I didn't take it into consideration that I would not be able to come back. Unfortunately, I cannot see the audience. Are there any other questions? Yes, there is someone at the front, but you need to wait for the microphone. Izabela Wrzosek, I would like to ask Danuta Wałęsa. What do you like about your current life? What do you enjoy most? And what is your day like? I enjoy holy peace. I do what I like, what I want, and I go whenever I want. My children are adults. I help my oldest daughter, who has 2 little kids, 4 and 2 years old. She went to work, so I help her. And that's my joy, that I spend time with my grandchildren. I attend various meetings. I go to cinema, to theater. I do what I didn't do for all my life. Katarzyna, I'm from Łódź. I wanted to ask for your advice to the first lady or the first husband, because one day we might have a female president. What advice would you give to the first lady or first husband? I won't give any advice. Everybody has their own thinking and vision, and there are different circumstances. We shouldn't have the first lady as the current one. And if we had female president, perhaps she won't have a husband. She'll be single and more responsible for us as a mother and a good leader. I'm waving to you at the back. Thank you very much for this meeting, and I'm very happy to see both Danutas, the one from the stage, and the real Danuta. I wanted to ask about solidarity nowadays, but not in the context of advice to offer, since you don't like giving advice, but whether it's possible in the light of current challenges. Perhaps the evil is not so clear, not so explicit. We might not even notice it. Is there any chance that new solidarity with the participation of females will be born? I'm afraid that in the light of what the world looks like, the hazards are hidden. The enemy seems to be far enough not to take care of it. Do we, as the society, have this element of solidarity, which will mean that if the situation requires it, we'll be able to build something like that and will become new solidarity for ourselves? Thank you very much for this question. There is no solidarity. The solidarity during previous government was not solidarity. They were not fighting for the nation, for employees, but they were only going hand in hand with the government. It came to me that it should be that new solidarity should be created on the old foundations. Not only composed of females, but I feel a wise woman should be the solidarity leader. She doesn't have to fight all the time. We must not say that males are worse, females are better. We are all equal, and we need to understand it, that we need one another. Only supporting one another and being together, we can achieve something. From now and then, I have dreams and secrets. The secrets do exist, but I still have a dream that we have real solidarity, like the one during the initial 2 weeks. I must say, these were amazing 2 weeks of the first solidarity. The 2 weeks of the strike, It was a beautiful moment of mutual respect of one human to another. Nobody reproached anything. We used to live in Stogi district. People were walking there because the trams didn't drive, and now we feel offended or we reproach certain things. If you learn about things that were supposed to be improved, but they are not, it's sad. We do have some questions from the audience. I can't see anything, so we'll wait for the microphone. There is also a gentleman at the front, but yes, I do have a microphone. Great respect to Ms. Wałęsa. I've got a question concerning your evaluation of the current government. I'm very interested in how you evaluate the current government from the perspective of your experience and understanding of what matters in politics. You know, I should stick to my definition that I do not evaluate and that I do not advise. Well, I don't really like that this government is slow to act. Perhaps it can be done faster and certain things can be done overnight. But some disgusting facts shouldn't be revealed. Some things don't work. But perhaps let's start doing our things, our business in our environment, so that it starts from us and it will be repaired. I'm not going to quote any names, and I will end here. I wanted to ask you about your husband. What made you furious in him throughout your life? But I'll leave the question behind. Thank you for that. But there is another question. Many people visited your home. Who do you remember best? What are your best memories? Yes, indeed. After the end of strike, we had lots of visitors. We moved from Gdansk Stogi to Gdansk Zaspa because our flat was small. Journalists started visiting us. So the authorities were ashamed of such a person living in such a small flat. So we were like bags of potatoes moved to another place. There were crowds of people visiting us. Everybody wanted to do their business. And it used to be like that for a month. In the book, I mentioned that I got furious and my husband wrote attention typhus on the door. Our children were small and nobody cared for it, that the father was absent and there were crowds of people coming to and through. As for the visitors, Kuroń, Michnik, Gwiazdas, the Gwiazdas, Ms. Walentynovich, Bogdan Borusewicz, but I don't have good memories related to Anna Walentynovich. There was a meeting in Gdańsk Zaspa the first week of September. Kuroń, Michnik, the Gwiazdas, and Borusewicz visited us, and Ms. Walentynovich said, Wałęsa did his business and now he can leave. And fights started in the first week afterwards, and I was observing it, seeing that it won't lead to any good things because strikes in Poland continued. My husband was leaving to control the situation. That's my worst memory of Anna Walentynovich. In the majority of people, majority of people remember her as a heroine. It was true in the shipyard, but Anya was different afterwards. Some people started looking for some secrets against my husband, and we should have been together rather than fight it. If there is war, we'll be together and fight together, but I don't want any fight. I don't like such a word. I dream of reconciliation and mutual respect. And the nicest memory, you know, I have only bad memories, and you ask about the good one. During the Solidarity, you know, it was terrible. It was like in a cauldron. Things were bad and mixing over and over again. Then there was the martial law. And I have to say, I don't have any positive memory. If I thought twice, I could think of someone. But now nothing comes to my mind. There were a lot of people who helped me. There was Anna Kowalczyk, Ewa Górska, my cousin Mariola, and we still stick together. These females bring back good memories. They were great women who added power and courage. Thank you very much. And I suppose that's the perfect ending for our meeting. Karolina Kazoń, Danuta Wałęsa, thank you very much for being here.
Wałęsa na scenie Igrzysk.
Ladies and gentlemen, Danuta Wałęsa on Freedom Game stage is a great pride. Thank you very much. I would like to ask you to stay with us for a while on the stage, because we've got this tradition. At the end of the Freedom Games, we are contributing, we're extending the words of gratitude to Liberté Foundation, to volunteers. Before we thank you, we've got one more announcement. Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this year's Games is the City, Europe, Future. Future depends on us, both the near future and the distant future. In few months' time, Poles will go to vote. So together we will decide who will represent Poland for the next 5 years. Together, we will also decide which direction our future for future generations will follow. We will decide during the discussions, during the games, we found out that there is a lot of work to do to make sure that the Poland's reality should be changed into better. During this year's games, we held an election. So I think that all the people who, for the past 8 years, were extremely worried about democracy, and we wanted to find out who will be the best candidate to the first representative of Poland, in our opinion. Who should become the president of Poland? Okay, I'm talking too much, so not to make it any longer. So in this election, actually we invited 750 participants of Freedom Games, so 720 valid votes were passed. So let's see the results. So we do hope that these results will be confirmed and the voters will make sure that these people will win. So see you during the election. Thank you very much.
Szanowni Państwo, igrzyska to jest ogromna praca.
Freedom Games is a huge work of many people you usually don't see on the stage. So this is the time to thank them cordially. So please join me at the stage and near the stage. Please join us. Long hours of hard work. Wonderful young people. Ladies, please come forward.
To jest naprawdę budujące, że tak wiele osób chce angażować się.
It's very reassuring that so many people want to be involved in the democracy, in the public debate about Poland. It's great that we have so many young voluntaries.
Śmiało, śmiało, chodźcie przed scenę. Również z tamtej strony. Leszka Jażdżewskiego zapraszam na scenę.
Leszek Jażdżewski, please join us.
Ogromne, ogromne dzięki dla Was i raz jeszcze wielkie brawa dla tego wspaniałego zespołu.
Thank you very much. A great round of applause for this wonderful team. Thank you. See you next year. But there is still a good concert ahead, so please stay with us.
Życzymy Państwu przyjemnej podróży.